Hey there folks, welcome back to the channel. So I'm recording this on the day after the Expo itself, kind of a little post-Expo recap as far as a lot of the different things that I did. I was actually trying to figure out the best way to do the Expo video itself. I did end up capturing a bunch of different footage that I could kind of splice together and make a whole narrative out of it, so instead of doing that thought I would just do one video that kind of captures all the rest of it. I did have a live stream as part of it as well, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit during the course of this one. So this one's going to be one catch-all. The only other thing that may come on the channel, and I'm saying it just to have it out there, I did record a little bit of an audio piece with my buddy Steve, who set up as one of the dealers at the Expo, talking about a couple of different things. Now, unfortunately, it wasn't one cohesive conversation because it was still at the table while things were going on, and they were out there, and we kind of stopped and started a bunch of different times as people came up to the table. So because of that, I don't know how the audio is, and I don't know how cohesive I'm going to be able to put something together. So if you see something on the channel before the end of the week, then you'll know I was able to capture that the audio was okay and I was able to capture and put something cohesive together with it. Otherwise, it's one of those things that'll end up on the cutting room floor. But I'm going to do my best to see if I can extract the good stuff out of it. And I've got it on there. I just got to take it off the phone and put it into the other one because it wasn't exactly something I had planned. It's just something that came up as an opportunity to have. Now, let me do this. I'm going to break this up into a couple of different pieces here during the course of this video. I've got the cards with me that I ended up picking up. So just short version, going into it, I did record one piece of footage that I'm not going to include in the video, where on day 2 I was talking about kind of a couple of things I wanted to do, because on Thursday, which was the VIP night, I wasn't able to actually record anything. A lot of it came down to, as I was meeting up with folks and talking, a lot of times I spent holding court in the food court, because we would kind of sit there and grab a table and some chairs and kind of hang out and chat, and then some folks would come in, some folks would walk away, and some folks actually came by and said they had seen the stuff from the channel, which was really nice, and we ended up meeting some folks and chatting with them, and then meeting some new folks, and all part and parcel of a big card show. But regardless, over the course of the day, the days going into it, the plan was really to do the following: to try to add something to the Medano collection if I could. It was something that I wasn't too worried about, because if I saw something, great. If not, now I technically did not add anything to the Medano collection, although I do have some Medano cards that I picked up, and I'll explain when I get to the cards here in a second. But the bottom line was that I came in with that as part of it. I wanted to work on a couple of vintage sets, success in that regard, and work on some of these side PCs like the Jamie Benn PC. Also success in that regard. So there are definitely some successes as long, but a lot of it is you can have a plan, and I had some lists with me and everything, and I planned it all out from that perspective, but you got to be flexible. You got to know that sometimes maybe you don't find exactly what you're looking for, or you don't have as much time as you would like to look around. It was mostly the case for me. Also, honestly, I kind of was very content pacing with myself. It had been the first show in 2 years. So I was kind of content just to see some folks and chat with them. So if I had done less of that, I would have more time to look at more cards, and I'm sure I would have found more stuff. As it was, I managed to find ways to spend my money just the same. So to start off with that, let me do the cards first. I did incorporate and catch some of this stuff on Instagram, and I'm trying my best not to look at the screen directly above the camera, but it probably looks like that. Anyway, so the first two were actually based on some help. And as I was kind of chatting with folks at the show and doing things, adjacent to the show, this one I actually got from Sanderson Orr, so Eric reached out while Yannick and myself. So if the names sound familiar, a lot of that is going to be from the live streams. So, and I did get a chance to meet up with some folks, and I'll show while I'm before I show the cards, I'll do a little move to the side, and I'll put a quick group photo there. So Yannick took a picture of the 4 of us. So it's Yannick, myself, Eric, and of course Bobby Burrell. So we met through a couple of times throughout the show, and had a chance to spend some time chatting for sure. Now, while Eric was on the floor, he actually found a couple of Medano cards, and he sent a picture. And when he gave the price, I actually wasn't sure if he meant for 1 card or 2. It turned out it was for both, and even though I already had the card, I was still more than happy to say, like, hey, pick it up, I'll reimburse you. So he did do that. So I'll show you guys. The first one's 2009-2010 SB Authentic Hockey, and it is the Rookie Review patch auto. So I'm going to show that there. Let me highlight it. So this one, if you're familiar with my Instagram, will look familiar, but the other version I have only has a 1-color swatch on it. And I had it not that long ago, I picked it up, but this is a nice upgrade on that patch. So that other one will become available at some point in the not too distant future. I don't mind moving a second copy if I have one. The second one here is also from SB Authentic, but this one is from 0809, and this is the Rookie Review. And check out the patch on this one. So it's got a little piece of the star. Nice clean autograph as well. So that's a nice card. So both of those are out of 100. Both very nice, and both patch upgrades. So right off to a good start already right there. And in the course of having some fun there, I was hanging out with, again, my buddy Steve, like I mentioned, and I was hanging out with some folks as well there. As I go along, I will probably refrain mostly from giving off too many more names, just because it gets more and more difficult. Sometimes I know handles and not names, or I know names and not handles, and it gets a little tricky because I'll recognize faces, and I don't know if maybe you guys have this issue. I'm terrible at getting names without saying them out loud a bunch of times. And that's just something that I've always had. It's that I can know exactly who you are. I can chat and we can talk about a bunch of different things. Oh, we went and saw this, or, you know, we're hanging out at this situation or that situation, and I can name all that off. But then the name, I have to say it a couple times. So I guess in this weekend, what helped a lot is that when I was chatting with certain guys that I was chatting with already, I had been, you know, conversing back and forth either on Instagram or through various other means. So if I say your name a million times, well, then there's a better chance I'll be able to connect two and two together. But if I saw you, I know I'd see you. So hello to those folks as well, even if I don't name you, and I apologize for that. So in the course of it, I also picked up this card, also that I mentioned on the Instagram, and this is the 2021 Clearly Authentic, the Juan Gonzalez. So you can see it's see-through and acetate, all kind of. Unfortunately, the reflection's pretty bad there, but see if I can do that. That works a little better. But as a slugger in the 90s, Juan Gonzalez was one of the best. So he was a great one, and it was a good opportunity to pick up a nice, cool-looking auto. This right here also was part of the same day, and this is doing some work on the 1960 Parker set. And so I'll just briefly show. I'm not going to go through all the cards. So there it is. So going into the show, I needed 14 to finish this set. So I've got 11 here in this pile, and then actually on you know, in the hotel room in between, I started taking a look, because once I'm down to 3, I was taking a look to see, okay, let me just see if there's anything on there, because there were a couple of better players. I think Doug Harvey, and there was another one that escapes me right now, and I was able to find both of those at a fair price. So I've got those you know, on order, waiting to come in, and then once those come in, I'll be down to the last card, which is card number 61, which I believe is Jim Morrison. And then the set will be completed, and I'll do a little showcase of all the cards. But that was another deal that I was able to do on day 1. Well, sorry, day 2. So those were day 2 pickups, and that's these guys. And then on day 3, a little bit of focus on the Jamie Benn collection. So at Steve's table, because I was there so much, I was able to do a little deal. This was for the Jamie Benn collection. And I got to have a little bit of fun, because it's one of those things. I enjoy collecting Jamie Benn because he became captain of Dallas, and it was kind of the, you know, the torch was passed from him as his first season was Modano's last season in Dallas before that 1 year in Detroit. So there's kind of that connection. Plus, I did get a chance to see him in the AHL a little bit. So I've enjoyed collecting his stuff, but unfortunately, his play has not really helped appreciate the values of those cards. So as such, when you make offers on those cards, you adjust accordingly. But Steve was willing to accommodate me just to get rid of some of those cards, as he phrased it, basically. So this one is from 2013, 2014 Prism. So that's the autograph. It's fairly early Ben. It's a cool looking card. You got the nice Prism card. So those are nice. And then you've got a color coded from 2016-17 UD Black. So this is the color coded with the jersey, which is just a cool looking card. Again, all of these are on my Instagram if you want to see them. So if you see in the description in my Instagram there, and you'll get a chance to see those, because I take a better picture of them. Now this one's a really cool card. This one is actually 2016-2017 Upper Deck Premier. This is the Premier Gear, and this is the parallel of it. And it shows 4 pieces, or 5 pieces. So this is 3 of 3. And I'm going to try to adjust it here a little bit. So you can see there you got the button in the middle. You got a tag, you got another tag, and then a couple of patches. So 3 of 3. And that's just a really cool card. And as you can imagine, from that amount of game used material, it is a very thick card. So you basically need one of the crazier one touches to get this thing in there. So pretty cool. Let's grab those 3 at the table, and then was able to make something of that. So that was great. And then on the same day, and this is probably what I mentioned quickly. I mentioned it a little bit. After I finish showcasing this, I'll talk a little bit about the live stream that I did over the show weekend. I was able to do it, and I'll give a little bit more story and context of that in a second. But anyway, the way that the hall was set up was, and I mentioned a little bit on the live stream, but I'll just repeat it here. The way the hall was set up is that you had a long but narrow, basically a long but narrow part of the hall that only allowed for basically 4 rows. And in the course of doing that, it basically meant that you would go, north to south to get all the way to the other side. And as you got all the way to the end, you would find this kind of this rectangle. So you'd be basically have an east to west available in front of you. And then that section would have a bunch of other dealers. But then it was the overall hall configuration ended up being kind of a J, because you'd have a little bit of an open pathway there that would take you through. And if you managed to get all the way there and you found it, you could walk through and actually find another entire set of dealers, smaller group, but still you'd have like a little side room and then a side room beside that. And most people only really found it when and if they decided to go to any panels or any of the signings, because that's the area where that stuff was. But if you didn't pay attention, beside that signing area, there would be some other booths. And this next card I picked up at one of those, and fortunately, on the third day, we did go out of our way to go and check it out, because otherwise I wouldn't have seen it. Unfortunately, they were stuck in almost the absolute no man's land as far as that's concerned, and those dealers, unfortunately, probably weren't able to do as much business, certainly, as other areas, because you just didn't get the kind of foot traffic. Most people never made it all the way there. And I did end up doing a video walkthrough, unfortunately not as extensive as I would have liked, and I'll include it in this video. Unfortunately, because of, like I said, not enough traffic going in that direction, a lot of those dealers at the end didn't have too much success, I don't think, getting as much business as potentially they could have. And that's something that may have to be addressed in future expos, assuming that we end up in that hall again. I think based on the conversation Steve Menzie had on the live stream, I think he's going to try to shoot for get the old hall, which is a little bit more of a rectangle. And that'll probably make better sense and give these dealers a better chance at doing better over the weekend, because there was a fair bit of traffic, especially on the Friday, the Saturday, and even on the Sunday, some decent traffic for chunks of that time. So it's unfortunate, but it is what it is. But we did check it out on the third day, and I was able to find a dealer that had some vintage, and I was able to pick up this 53 Topps Roy Campanella. It's a BVG, but a nice clean card. I like it. I'm still trying to decide if I want to do the set or not, but if I do, I definitely want to have the Hall of Famers, so Roy Campanella is part of that. And this was a very nice gift on the last day that was presented, that I was made available. Basically, again, people trying to get rid of the Jamie Benns. People not loving the Jamie Benns. So this one is from 1516 SP Game Use High. This is the Media Guide Booklist, which I didn't know was a thing. So it's Jamie Benn and Jason Spezza, looking like their prison mugshots with a little memorabilia. So there you go. Pretty cool card. And then you got have the special top loader to make it work. But anyway, so there's another little addition to the Jamie Benn collection. So I did get that. 2 Medano cards, but they were upgrades, and the rest of these Jamie Benns are new for me. This card is numbered. It is out of 65. So see, there you go. See if I can zoom in on it. There you go. Cool. All right. So those are the pickups for the most part. The only exception being, actually, I'll grab it. Ta-da! Bit of a running joke is the whole Pelican case thing. Have a lot of fun with that on the Instant Revolution podcast and with Dave and Steve and those guys. Now, quickly, I'll tell you the story about that one. So that one was one that was actually there, and it was at the booth with a couple of friends that we were kind of just chatting. And towards the tail end there, it was just a case that it was up there, and Yannick noticed it and just quickly mentioned it, and basically was like, you want to take it? So I got it for $3.99. So basically at that price point, you can't beat it. It is what it is. So now I have my own case. Honestly, I'm probably going to put some of my Medanos in this one. I think I know exactly what I want to do with it. It has actual grooves built into it to put some cards in. I got to see what size holders it holds, though. Depending on what it is, I'll probably do it. Because something like that, I'm not really going to cut around. But it is useful to hold some of the cards, so I don't mind from that perspective. Now, anyway, so those are the pickups, all included, Pelican case included. Then the next section now, I'm going to quickly talk about basically what happened with the live stream, and then I'll do a little the walkthrough video as far as showing you a little bit about, what it will look like, and then I'll conclude with some final thoughts. Okay, so here is me, hopefully in the corner, while a little bit of the live stream is playing for you. Basically, that was myself and Vinny, and that came about as a result of at the end of dinner on Friday, and I'll get back to the whole dinner thing as well, because I want to mention that as kind of in the conclusion piece. But anyway, so after dinner on Friday, it was already kind of late, and I felt kind of bad, because unfortunately I wanted to see if I could do a live stream, and I had done some tests on the laptop and everything. The laptop seemed to be working great, and everything was good, except the internet seemed to be really glitchy. It was kind of just up and down. It really wasn't consistent. I wasn't too happy with it. But Vinny was up. We were kind of chatting back and forth, and I basically said, hey, do you mind, can I try a little test with you? And he goes, yep, no problem. So I tried my regular link that I had just for video calls, and it seemed to be working pretty well. So I said, you got about half an hour. Do you want to just, mind coming on and I'll chat about the expo a little bit and then we'll call it? He goes, yep, sounds good. So we did that. I was already, I think, past midnight, and we ended up going 2 hours. So that was the live stream that ended up on the channel. And I was able to do it from the hotel room with my normal audio setup as far as the microphone. So I brought that along with me because it actually has a stand that you can screw it into, and then it works just fine. You just plug it in with USB and you're done. So it ended up working really well. I was super pleased, and Vinny was a great sport to hang out and chat with me. We ended up chatting after for quite a while. After we went offline, so we had ourselves a good chat and talked about a variety of things, which was kind of a theme of the weekend overall. Just folks and collectors, in this case, Vinny wasn't there, but in the end, he got to participate in part of the Fall Expo festivities indirectly with the live stream, and we were able to have a great conversation, and conversation with a lot of great hobbyists and folks. And like I said, in the conclusion piece, I'll talk about that a little bit more. But what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to cut it over to a little video with a little quiet background music underneath. Whether you like the song or not, I can't help it. It's what YouTube gives you for free royalty stuff, so I grabbed something in there. I mentioned earlier the configuration of the hall. What I decided to do is that on the third day, I wanted to do it earlier, the VIP night, and I'll talk about that in the conclusion too. The VIP night probably would have been the best night to do this, but I decided to start closer to the back room, the end of the J, and then work my way back through the main part of the hallway and then through towards the front. So that's basically the direction I started to do it. So I'll play the clip for you. It's a couple of minutes. You can enjoy that, and then when I come back, we'll do the conclusion to the Fall Expo vlog. fun. Just to conclude, it was a great show. I consider it a very successful one. It was a very interesting dynamic, obviously having been 2 years since the last one. Very different in style, but then in some ways the same. I will say one of the biggest differences, kind of from my perspective, was just obviously having made a lot of connections and relationships through a lot of the live stream stuff and the Instagram community and things like that. It was really good to kind of meet some folks and put some faces to some names and hear some voices and talk to some folks in person, and obviously also reconnect with some other folks that I already knew. I mentioned earlier on in the channel's history when I live stream is that a lot of times in my hobby collecting, I was always very content to kind of just be doing my thing, because I've been going to Expo since 1995. I've been doing it for a long time. And some of those folks I've always talked to, over the years. But some of these folks this year, I would say I talked to more new folks, quote unquote, than at any other time. And some of the folks are folks that I had a chance to talk to, but this was the first chance to do so in person. A good example being like PSA Canada, Brad Hartland, who's been on the live stream, and we had a great conversation and we hung out for hours and had some great fun while Brad told us some stories. Well, I had a good chance with Brad and some family and friends and some other dealers to be able to go hang out and have dinner and share a drink and be able to tell some more stories. So that was a lot of fun. And then also I hung out with Bobby and with Eric and with Yannick and with some other folks and folks that I've hung out with in the past. So I managed to have 3 different nights where I was having dinner with, first, the folks that I've had dinner with traditionally at a lot of these expos, then the newer group that kind of came about a little bit more as a result of stuff going on with the live stream, and then the third one, which is kind of in that category, but also folks that had been around a little bit. So it's like you got all these divergences of these different groups, and I was able to say hi and talk to some folks that I knew mostly through Instagram handles and through comments in the chat and stuff like that. So it was a really good time from that perspective, and hopefully if we had the chance to talk, hopefully it was a good experience and you enjoyed it, and I enjoyed it from my side of it, and got to meet some other folks and some friends of friends, and the network kind of grew. I made fun because it's the way that I term it is the kind of the lazy network, or the the inadvertent network, which is to say I didn't actively go out to meet these other people, but friends of friends and folks that, oh, I had seen your thing, I heard about this, and then strike up some conversations, and then potentially down the road some more folks may end up on the channel that I got a chance to meet at this expo. Now, as I'm talking, I'm going to slide a little bit, because as I'm talking, I'm going to put a couple of pictures that were taken, obviously, with some folks that you may be familiar with if you've seen the channel. And then one of the gentlemen right about now that I'm going to put in is actually Tim. And Tim is actually one of Eric's friends, Sir Sanderson Dorr, who founded Slabstrong. Now, he's got a very interesting story. That is the first time I'd ever met him at the expo, but I think we will have an opportunity down the road. So I'm going to be in touch with him, and we may have an opportunity down the road to have a conversation with him, because he's got a very interesting story. He's got an interesting product as far as something that makes sense. It's not necessarily for everybody, but it's one of those things where I think there's a lot of different folks that may find some value in it, and there's some connection to some interesting characters in the sports card social media landscape, let's say, and YouTube channels that do have some connection to it, and we can have some stories and some conversations about that. And he's had some meetings with some other folks that are in the industry of the graded card side of things as well. So, like I said, there's some opportunities there. But this is another one of those things that would not have been possible had it not been for some of the connections and communications that I had on the channel. And that's really the biggest takeaway, is that, yes, there were tons of cards at this expo, and if you were looking for different things, and in the coming, weeks and things like that, maybe as more time goes on and I absorb it a little bit more, I'll probably think of some more things. I will say, I expected there to be a higher proportion of the non-hockey stuff. There definitely was more than usual than in the past, but I would say hockey remained very strong. The market stayed very strong for the hockey cards in the booths that I was looking at. Again, I didn't have a chance to be as extensive about it, so maybe some others had a different experience than I did. But I definitely saw plenty of hockey. You were not lacking. If you were looking for that, you could definitely find it. Prices and things like that were obviously some a little bit on the high end. Some folks were willing to deal, but I think some folks were holding strong because I don't think they had too much trouble selling, especially on some of those busier days. They definitely got busy. So I will say, not too many, even if some people did shy away, trust me, we managed to find plenty of people to replace you. So that was kind of interesting. And even with everything else, we managed to make it good. Now, last thing I'll mention was that VIP thing. I think it's going to come back. I think it is interesting. And one of the observations that my buddy Steve mentioned, and hopefully if I'm able to extract that audio, I'll be able to give you that information directly from his mouth, because I asked him about it, is that I think a lot of folks didn't fully take advantage of that VIP day, because it was less crowded. It gave you a lot more opportunities to talk and maneuver, and you had 4 hours with a much easier access to the dealers than would be on some of the busier days, and not as many people were able to fully exploit that. Now, I think some of that is because that is a relatively new phenomenon for us. If they repeat that VIP night in following nights, following shows, I should say, I would expect that some would probably take better advantage of it, because I can totally see it being 100% worth it to get the VIP just to have access to it. For me, obviously, I was kind of taking it all in, and I was mostly just taking the opportunity to chat with some folks and meet up with some folks, old and new. But I would definitely take more advantage of it next time and probably do some more wheeling and dealing on that first day, because I didn't buy a single thing on that first day. So those are just some thoughts and things. Other than that, those are the main things that I can think of. If there's any questions or anything that you might have, feel free to throw them in the comments section. I'll do my best. I tried to think of as much stuff as I could. It's still relatively fresh, but at the same time, a lot of stuff, a lot of time, and a lot of conversations and a lot of things. And I'm sure some stuff will shake out on the cobwebs as I have a little more time to think about it. But those are my thoughts and some of the experiences. Hopefully you enjoyed kind of my recap overall. As I said, great show. Looking forward to the next one. I'm quite content having a little time between this one and the next one, but I think by the time we get a little closer to it, it'll be exciting. And my wallet needs some time to recover, so I think that'll be good. Anyway, so that's it for now. More videos coming up on the channel. Live stream will be back on Friday, 9 p.m. Eastern Time, as usual, and we can talk about this and we can talk about some other stuff. So that'll be it for me. Thanks very much for watching. We'll catch you in the next one.